Okay, let's bring back our Vote 2020 panel with two additions. Sinclair political commentator Ameshia, host of the Armstrong Williams Show, Armstrong Williams, member of the President's National Security Education Board, host of America First on Salem Radio and Sinclair Media contributor Dr. Sebastian Gorka, and University of Maryland lecturer Dr. Jason Nichols. Now, this election, we went into this election knowing that race was going to play a big part. Remember what happened all summer long, how race was a big part of this. Going into the election, I want you to listen to Maxine Waters talking about race in the election.
For those black young men who think somehow they can align themselves with Trump, not only are they terribly mistaken, any of them showing their face, I will never, ever forgive them for undermining the possibility to help their own people and their own communities.
So I'd like to go to Armstrong. How do you take that, Armstrong? How do you take that comment? Let's hear from you.
Utter ignorance and Neanderthal and prehistoric thinking, and it reflects to her generation that they're so out of touch. This is probably why Trump got 18% of the black vote, eight men, and what else? Black women went 4%, 8%. I mean, it's just shocking. I don't know anybody else. Latinos can vote for whomever they want to, Jews, Asians, whites, women, but yet if blacks step out and say, I'm going to vote conservative, I'm going to vote this way, all of a sudden they're sellout, they no longer belong to the tribe anymore. That generation has to die off in order for there to be critical change in this country, because that is a dying voice, and that is why Nancy Pelosi is fighting for her speakership today, because of the kind of ignorance, and I'm going to call it exactly what it is. That is ignorance at its best, and it should be repudiated at every turn.
Ameshia, your thoughts?
Well, Maxine Waters is entitled to her own opinion. I don't stand by that one. I think that, people can decide who their political party happens to be. And as a black person, I don't think your black card can technically ever be revoked. You wake up black, you're going to die black. That's not something that is determined by who you subscribe to vote for. I love country music. That doesn't make me any less black than a black person who enjoys R&B and rap. So I think that there is some level of offense that can be taken from it. But I also feel as though there's a reason why the African-American voting bloc is largely in the bank of the Democrats. And that is not changing anytime too soon.
Jason, last night during their election coverage, MSNBC host, primetime host, Joy Reid, she said, if this election goes to the Supreme Court, do you trust, and she used this word, this comment, Uncle Clarence, referring to Clarence Thomas, black Supreme Court justice. What do you say to her?
That's not language that I would use, certainly not on television. That's not something that I would say. I think if you want to be taken seriously, you shouldn't say those kinds of things. But, the idea that Clarence Thomas can't be trusted in this circumstance to make a judgment just based on the Constitution and not a partisan one, I think that's a fair concern. So I think she's raising a fair concern. But we can do without ad hominem. We can do without the insults. We can actually talk about the substance of these issues.
Sebastian, earlier today I was on BBC and I was a counter to Michael Moore, the very liberal filmmaker, and basically he said anyone who didn't vote for Biden, who would vote for Trump, and he lumped me into this. He called me a white supremacist, or at least a sympathizer with white supremacy. And I had to push back because I'm clearly not. I denounce all of that. But let's talk about ad hominem. It's the Democrats that seem to be willing to use ad hominem attacks on anyone who doesn't think like them.
Absolutely. Cancel culture is not a right-wing phenomenon. It's a left-wing phenomenon. And I'm a bit surprised with Ameshia. I don't know if she's been asleep for the last 6 months. She said you can't lose your black card. You wake up black and you go to bed black. Not if you don't vote for Joe Biden. He said if you don't vote for him, you ain't black, quote, unquote. Let's look at what happened in the last 24 hours. The President of the United States, who has been called a racist, a misogynist, a man who plays footsie with the Nazis and the KKK under the table, earned more votes by 5 million ballots this year than 4 years ago. They have tried to smear him and they have failed. And the old tribal constituencies have broken. Armstrong's absolutely right. You look at the Hispanic, Latina community in Miami, in Florida. You look at the black Hispanic community in states such as Arizona. They are voting in record numbers, the likes of which we have never seen before for a GOP candidate. That's why the Democrats have to use ad hominem, because their policies have failed minorities.
I got 30 seconds each. We'll go around the horn. I'm going to start with you, Ameshia, because you brought it up. Has the black community ignored Joe Biden's comments?
No, I think that the black community has by and large surrounded and wrapped their arms around Joe Biden. We saw it happen when he turned everything around in the primaries in South Carolina. We saw it again not only on Election Day, but dramatically in the days leading up to Election Day through early voting. The black community is a solid block for the Democratic Party and supported Joe Biden resoundingly.
What about it, Armstrong? Sebastian talked about if you don't vote for Biden, you ain't black. That and countless other comments that would be considered maybe even racist if it weren't Joe Biden saying them. Your thoughts?
You know, the problem here is that to think that the only thing that black people are concerned about is racism and civil rights is just such a disservice to that community. They care about the economy, the stock market, they care about foreign policy, they care about education, they care about this pandemic, and all we do is continue to dumb them down, balkanize them, marginalize them. They are Americans first. They're just as American as apple pie and the Chevrolet.
Jason?
I agree with Armstrong in terms of Americans caring about the pandemic, caring about health care, caring about Social Security, Medicare, and all of those issues. And that's why I think they are going for Joe Biden resoundingly, as Ameshia stated.
Jason, do you care about unemployment in the black community by chance?
I'm sorry?
Do you care about the lowest on record unemployment in the black community under President Trump? Because that doesn't seem to play in your...
Well, we also know that it went up to 16.8%. We also know it was actually headed in that direction prior to him entering into office.
I got to get to Seb. I got 20 seconds, Seb.
As I said before, this is the president who has done the most for minority communities since record keeping began. That is just a fact. And if you support him as a black American, you get in trouble and you need to be canceled, and they want to call you an Uncle Tom, and it is a disgrace.
Panel.
That's the Democrat Party.
Thank you very much.